Welcome to the Coliseum, ladies and gentlemen, where we have another heated Grand Arena that you don't want to miss. During the second round of Grand Arena, I could not stream it, so it's something you haven't seen for sure yet. The highlight of today's video, besides just the heat and off-meta counters, I am inclined to say this is one of the most important things that come out this year, and I'm hoping you guys are taking advantage of it because this ship beats pretty much every top tier fleet in the game. And I know a lot of you guys have Bad Batch and a lot of you guys got Negotiator, and this is great at low stars, as we're going to show today in action. Okay, well, I didn't use it at low stars, but it's good at low stars regardless. So round 2 of Grand Arena for the first week of 3v3 was up against Mike 1003. Is it 1003? Or is that 10,003? Doesn't matter, let's keep going. So, taking a look at Mike's front wall, we had Alea. Oh, wow, what a surprise. Lord Vader, Rey, a Darth Vader Savage, and a Tusken lineup. And Tuskens are a little nasty this season. So I figured let's start ripping out the bandit by using Synthatiger Emperor versus Galactic Legend Leia. Oh gosh, I'm really getting sick of this Galactic Legend. It's like you need to do something really expensive to beat it, or if you want to try to get through it without having to get expensive, it's going to be an expensive cleanup anyways. It's a catch-22. Anyways, hit the Eternal versus Leia. I feel like the armor literally doesn't help me out all that much. Most times, even though I get her to get the 3 stacks, the Leia team takes so many opening plays and turns, and they have so much damage, and they have stuns. The chances of my armor being around seem to be almost 0. I keep changing out the tank. Sometimes I'm using Sith Trooper, sometimes Short Trooper, and sometimes Savage. It doesn't matter. Drogon and the crew, they're just going to blow through these guys, and they can ignore taunt. I don't even think it's a hot take. I don't think this team deserved a turn 1 ignore all taunt with their massive damage. They don't need it. Regardless, unfortunately, armor got nuked. Surprisingly, though, Sith Eternal was able to at least get out. Drogon at the minimum, but god dang! Oh, R2 and Leia still taking down Sith Eternal. So starting off on a strong foot with a fat L to the face for Sith Eternal. Man, hopefully Bane maybe helps him out. It's cleanup time, baby, and we use General Anakin Skywalker versus freaking Leia. All right, well, you gotta keep in mind one thing that's going on this season. We do not have the damage reduction Datacron for gas, which was very helpful to kind of at least clean through some Leias. Not as easy now without that Datacron, but again, at the minimum, we are at least able to get out R2, D2. So that's something, but the problem is, again, just without the damage reduction, it was really hard to work through Leia. She's always counterattacking and all that other jazz. She still does a lot of damage. But the good thing is gas stops revives. Even if Leia tried to revive R2, it wouldn't happen. Taking an L, but we're going to take a break and move on to a little bit easier of a Galactic Legend, which was Fennec versus Lord Vader. This just shows how much of a mobile gaming god I am. Starting off the battle, when you're going up against Lord Vader in 3v3, he's such an easy guy to beat. The only loss condition is, who does Thrawn fracture and does Maul take someone out? Lord Vader, he's the least important part of the equation. If Thrawn fractures Beskar Mando, you're kind of screwed. If he fractures Fennec, you can still pull this out. And luckily, RNGesus smiled upon me and bestowed the graciousness of the luck, and Thrawn fractured Fennec. But I have even won this, even if Beskar Mando does get fractured, but you really got to be an elite gaming god to pull that off. Nonetheless, Thrawn fracturing Fennec basically told me I'm going to win this, because worst case scenario, I just throw a damage immunity on her and she's fine. But if Beskar Mando gets fractured, you're kind of screwed because you can't give out the damage immunity. Plain and simple stuff, really not much to it. Once Fennec was free of her fractured chains, we were decimating this team one by one. Nothing too special, just another day at the office with a nice fat win. Moving on, another Galactic Legend that's been really annoying. Supreme Leader Kylo Ren versus Rey. I cannot wait for these unaligned force user Datacrons and the high defense Datacrons go away. I am eager to get back to using the plain old simple Star Killer versus Rey, but the win rates are pretty abysmal. Not to say it's impossible, 20% isn't really the most encouraging. So we've been using Supreme Leader Kylo Ren for these first few 3v3 Grand Arenas to get through Rey. Not much really to discuss here. Get in there, Have Hawks, first order officer, pass those turns. Pa, 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 pa. Help SLK to get the ultimate really quickly. And then when Ray's about to use her ultimate, you get into yours when he's the last one standing. Nothing really too complicated here. Maybe for another time we'll discuss some complications. But nonetheless, coming up on top, Supreme Tower and getting through Ray. Not happy about it, but you know, that's just the way it is. Things will never be the same. Success. Getting a nice win against another Galactic Legend. Moving up, we have Darth Treya versus Darth Revan. We know Sith have a lot of beef, and the beef here was between these two Sith factions right here. Darth Revan with Savage can be quite a scary combination. You can't quite Imperial Trooper your way through it. There might be some other cheesy things to get through, but nonetheless, it is quite complicated, depending as well how much is on the Datacron here. But Treya is a fairly solid counter to this lineup, and I used my Savage in this circumstance. Malik is also a nice use as well. If you throw Malik in this lineup and place a Savage, Revan can't get any of the turn meter. Savage is almost useless against Darth Malik because of all that anti-Sith turn meter. I will admit, things got a little bit heated. It got a little scary, but eventually Treya was able to get Savage out of the gameplay, and things were a lot easier at that point. The one thing I wasn't really paying attention to when we had corrupted battle meditation on my Treya and there's Bastila Shan, I used the isolate foolishly and didn't get the isolate. The game plan was, let's get isolate on Savage, GG's. Mild misplay, but still, we came up on top, baby, and got that nice W. Treya with a nice win over Darth Revan, and the beef will continue as to who is the superior Sith Lord. Holy crap, was this next battle scary. And you might be questioning my sanity. It all worked out, but we used Jedi Master Luke Skywalker versus the Tuskens. Okay, listen, now hear me out before I go into the full breakdown of this battle. In this battle, Tuskens are very nasty with the return of their Tusken Datacron. Not a lot of great stuff is shutting down Tuskens right now. There are a few things that we could have used, such as General Anakin Skywalker, Treya, but those are characters that we just used. Otherwise, when you take a look at win rates, it's not great for most other things. Radis doesn't work all that hot, and I wanted to one-shot this. I didn't want to start dropping too many battles, and looking ahead, I didn't think I needed Jedi Master Luke, so I used them here. However, I do question the use of Barriss here. With the Tusken Datacron, and also the Barriss stuff with her getting a lot of turn meter, we had a ton of damage over times, and I was literally freaking out that I might actually lose this battle. But my logic was, let's use Barriss so she could passively cleanse the damage over times, which she did, but there were a few times there were so many damage over times we almost lost Luke. It felt so dirty bringing in a Galactic Legend, but you need someone that can survive the damage over times, also ignore the taunts of the Tusken Cheese, and also be able to take out both of the Tusken Raiders to win the battle. We had all that in here. So though it looked really scary, it feels kind of overkill. The good news is Master Luke is not a high value Galactic Legend in 3v3, and I didn't really need him for what I needed to do moving forward. So hopefully that makes sense. It worked out. We got the one shot, but boy, using Galactic Legends versus Tuskens, that is a doozy. And oh, we make a return back to Galactic Legend Leia. She's definitely the most frustrating Galactic Legend we've ever had. And again, I'm hoping maybe it goes back to some degree of normalcy. Again, I want her to be good, but this just feels way too good. They're trying to clean her up with as little as possible, throwing in Trench, throwing in Wampa, nothing stuck. So usually what's been going on lately is I end up throwing Inquisitors at Leia. Reva, you know, okay, they got the job done. I just don't know. It's like you're really stuck in a catch-22. Yes, there are one-shot Galactic Legend counters, primarily the only one realistically being Supreme Leader Kylo and Malicos, but Supreme Leader Kylo can beat so many other things. Malicos can beat so many things, and he's so good on defense. It's a powerhouse offensive team that you'd have to be putting together to take out Leia. But then the other catch is, all right, you don't use Malicos, Supreme Leader Kylo, then you're doing something like this where you're bringing Sith Eternal and Reva, and, you know, isn't that kind of the same outcome? I don't know. The Leia's conundrum is really bothersome. It is the ultimate catch-22 of Galaxiers. Nonetheless, Reva and the Inquisitors got through, and we're breaking into the back wall. So the back wall is cracked, and we can finally see the rest of the board practically. We have Jabba the Hutt hidden in that back wall with that brand new Bausch Leia Datacron for the Hutt cartels. We have a odd Nest IG-11 Queel, Ewoks, Shorty, and a Radis. So the intel that basically this told me is our opponent, you know, they kind of went a little bit lighter on the defense. Not a ton of Galactic Legends, but definitely a few. So it kind of came down to we just got to make sure we do as well as we can moving forward without dropping any battles. That's the problem with light defense, is that once I smell a light defense, there's blood in the water, and you better make sure you tread carefully. One drop battle, oh, you're screwed. So the first battle in the back wall is Dr. Aphra versus Jabba the Hutt. Oh, oh, oh. I love Dr. F as a character. I just think Datacrons did her dirty because a lot of the stuff over the past year has been very durable, and she's a glass cannon. If she cannot do her glass cannon stuff, it's really hard to see the full appreciation of her. So it's good to see her Datacrons come back to keep her up to par. It just sucks. I feel like I have to wait for this Datacron to really get the full benefit, because without the Datacron, she's great. Anyways, with her turn meter reset, cooldowns that she has, and back-to-back turns that she gets, she's able to get out there and get work done, completely manhandling most teams again, especially Jabba, which was the counter I wish stuck a little bit more outside of Datacrons, or with Datacrons, I should say. Really not that much room for concern that went on here. The most annoying thing is waiting for the damage immunity to go away. With the new Jabba Datacrons of Bausch, Leia, and the Hutt Cartel, they have this damage immunity clause that can't be dispelled or prevented, so you're kind of sitting there like, all right, let's speed this up a little bit, because the thing you just got to worry about, because you're increasing cooldowns on Mr. J, Jabba back there, he's using his basics, and when he waves that finger, he's moving to that ultimate a little bit faster than using his other abilities. Otherwise, with the constant turns that Aphra gets, we get lots of revives, we get lots of cooldown increases. He came up on top with a nice win. Man, I hate how Datacrons, I feel like she was done a lot dirtier than things like Star Killer, I feel like. Regardless, Aphra coming on top with the win. Next up, we have Aura Singh versus Nest. Once you start seeing teams like this, you know your opponent's kind of trying to do an efficient offensive run. I mean, this could be mildly annoying, but I was able to take my leftover bounty that were not being used for the Lord Vader counter, quick contract, knock out Ness. Really, the only thing I was concerned if Ness would somehow land a perfect stun, kill off my normal Mando really quickly. But once we get that contract popped off, which is really fast of Aura, we're nuking these guys out, and really not much for concern. Almost a max banner win, slightly salty about a little bit of a missed banner opportunity, but nonetheless, plain and simple, you can't complain about it. Following up, we have Imperial Troopers versus Ewoks. You know how Grand Arenas can get up here in the Kyber 1 neck of the woods. Imperial Troopers get boxed out a lot with the newer generation teams and people forming these defenses, but I saw a window of opportunity to get that Imperial Trooper team in. But it got a little messy, a little bit of a misplay on my part. It's totally fine though. Veers versus the Ewoks. Luckily, my Veers and crew were able to go before the Ewoks. I think the more deadly Ewok team is Pop Blue. If you have decent speed on Pop Blue, you could potentially outrun an Imperial Trooper team, and that could cause problems. Luckily here, we didn't have that problem. We were able to outrun them, roll them. Unfortunately, lost a couple of banners. Kind of annoyed. I feel like I could have ran away with this with the max banner. It is what it is. Nonetheless, a win is a freaking win. Let's keep the train moving. Choo choo! Mon Mothma versus Shorty. A Shorty in the club. Oh man, good old 50 Cent. So this is a weird shorty lineup with General Grievous. General Grievous, man, he doesn't get a lot of love inside of Grand Arena nowadays in my neck of the woods, unfortunately. I think next year could be a little bit different, but nonetheless, here we bring out Mon Mothma. This is kind of a nice little counter to General Grievous. Although this is a short elite, I primarily saw this more as a General Grievous lineup, and Mon Mothma is a very solid General Grievous counter. She has so many cleanses, they take so many turns, they have solid damage, and they have buff immunity to boot to make sure we don't have an issue with Shorty. Cassie was able to get that buff immunity. We had buff the spells from Combat Carl. A very simple battle, nice, clean, max banner win. You know, I don't get to use Mon Mothma for normal stuff. It kind of felt nice pulling her out and let her having some fun other than Jabba cleanups. Mon Mothma, Combat Carl and the crew getting a nice win against Grievous. Final battle on the back wall was Bastila Shad versus Radis. I suppose this is technically a Cal Kestis battle since he's the one really getting work done. Radis can be another one of those annoying type of teams to deal with inside a Grand Arena, especially when we consider that the Datacrons have the reduced damage for Rebels. So there was no Darth Malgus to be seen. You know, I get it. Darth Malgus, when Cal's around, you know, he's not quite as threatening on defense as we're seeing. However, that means I could just use Cal for something else. So we decided to use him here. Just, you know, I had to play it a little smartly. You know, I had to get the tactical the scanners in the full swing, but you know, we got to build up to that insta kill. No Cal Datacron anymore this season, which is fine. He didn't need it. The Cal Datacron just made it more convenient. He still kicks plenty of butt without it. Got the insta kill quickly, nuked out Radis, but we had to make sure Jin didn't get the revive. So we made sure we timed out the foresight perfectly right before Jin tried to pop a revive. Wasn't going to happen on my watch. Able to blitz down Jin, getting the win with 56 banners. It feels nice when I can use Cal for non-Malgus purposes. We're pushing on the top wall finally, where we have Iden Versio, Finn and Zori, Captain Rex and the Phoenix crew, Kursanthan, and a good old Commander Luke Skywalker team. Let's get down to business with our first battle. On the top being Radis versus Iden Versio. So we just took out a Radis. How about we use our own Radis instead? I mean, I know this is a consistent battle, but boy, does it kind of give me the heebie-jeebies. This could have, I felt like, you know, went wrong in many different directions with the Imperial Datacrons and Iden and all the other troops having so much damage to screw around with. It kind of gave me some concern, but nonetheless, we brought in Baze to get constant turret or constant buff to spells. And once you finally get to that Radis assault, you can have a sigh of relief. I don't know, definitely a little bit scary. I think it's gonna be one of those nice things in a way where once the Idancron goes away, hopefully Wampa could be a bit more viable, but you gotta be careful though. Scout Trooper is able to get some nice stuff with Iden to try to minimize the success rate of Wampa's soloing with all those irresistible debuffs. Nonetheless, a win's a win. Max banners, I'm not gonna complain about it. Jedi Knight Revan versus Zori. I will admit, I kind of get a little worried bringing Jedi Knight Revan against Zori if I'm not bringing in something like Jedi Knight Luke Skywalker, but it's okay. We got the Windu, we got the Yoda, and that's all we need to get the job done. Luckily, Windu has a lot of anti-stealth involved. Yoda can steal the stealth and all the buffs that Resistance are trying to spread around, and I'm just going to take it for myself. Honestly, these battles, although I have done it without Luke, it gives me more confidence that, you know, we can do this without Luke. Save Luke for some of the other stuff that we can utilize him for. It also just concerns me because I'm running out of Datacrons at this point. I don't have a lot, so we're like bringing in stupid things like 7% accuracy. So it's nice to see that near vanilla Jedi Knight Revan is able to take out Zori with the Datacrons on him. Coming in, big wins. Let's keep moving. Qui-Gon Jinn versus Captain Rex. Captain Rex with the Phoenix. I don't see this too often inside a 3v3. Captain Rex likes to be with his clone counterparts, but furthermore, I don't see a lot of Captain Rex on defense because it annoys me. He could be so good on defense, but he has this one big weak spot. Qui-Gon Jinn. Doesn't seem to matter if it's the Captain Rex or the clones, Captain Rex or the Phoenix. Qui-Gon's like, there's always a freaking bigger fish, dude. He goes in there, pow! Just basically kind of waited on Qui-Gon getting nuked, and Anakin just blew the team out of existence. There is, I guess, a small concern of somehow Captain Rex got a stun on Anakin. Maybe that would have been a cause for concern, but no, it's pretty straightforward. Nothing special going on here. I would love to have Captain Rex on defense. He's great on offense, but Qui-Gon Jinn being able to consistently get through him, you know what, is what it is. But now it's time to bring in the Bad Batch versus the Wookiees. We're coming off the old Datacrons for Wookiees. Wookiees had a nice couple months of, you know, some viability, some usability in top Kyber play action. However, I'm not expecting too much Wookiee stuff to be happening on defense again. Now we're back to where Wookiees are, which they're just okay. They're not great. They're not the worst requirement for Cal, but they're not the best as well. Bad Batch, it's nice being back to the spot where my Bad Batch can make quick work out of the Wookiees. Really not much to brag about here. Bad Batch counter 101 stuff here. Get the days, get the stuns, keep doing your thing, move on. There's no more grit, no more all the other stuff. Reduce damage for Wookiees. Easy money, honey. This next battle gets me a little irritated. Padme versus Commander Luke Skywalker. Man, I'm a little peeved on this one. Yeah, they had the Rebel Datacron. Yeah, they had all this other jazz. I'm just annoyed because I could have one-shotted this. Padme can kind of one-shot Commander Luke. There's a bit of an RNG factor with it. Unfortunately, I got the short end of the stick. We were able to nuke out 3PO and Chewie right away. Very nice. But unfortunately, they went really hard on my Gideon. If my Gideon just would have survived a little bit longer, we would have been able to get one more control of the situation, give Padme all the stacks of courage she needs, and knock out Luke. So it sucks that, you know, instead of maybe killing off Padme or Shock, they went straight for Gideon, even with the demoralized. So a little frustrated. The ability blocks were also mildly annoying here. You know. Anyways, moving on. Commander Luke Skywalker can be a bit of a handful in 3v3 sometimes. But nonetheless, We were able to bring out our Boba, Han, Chewie just to get a nice cleanup here. Trying to get the most banners we can. Not much going on here. Just blitz down Commander Luke and call it a day. So unfortunately, 20 banners lost because of Luke. But now we get the ships and the highlight part of the stream. I firmly believe, even though the memo's been put out there, I think more getting the memo than the initial memo I put out for Zori. The Marauder for the Bad Batch is great, and I think it's setting us up for something in 2024. But the good thing is, here and now, Bad Batch Marauder is fantastic. It's able to go toe-to-toe with the Negotiator versus Leviathan, the Profundity, and the Executor. And you guys may have expected me to use my Marauder somewhere else, but there was no Leviathan. We had an Executor, we had a Negotiator, we had a Malevolence. Again, my opponent trying to do minimal defense, maximum offense. So I decided to do something that I don't normally always do. Since there was no Leviathan or any other thing I needed, I decided to use the Marauder and the Negotiator versus the Executor. Now, normally I use Chimera versus Executor. However, because of the teams I saw, I felt like I'd rather use Chimera versus Negotiator rather than Negotiator mirror match. I hate mirror matches. So this is a very clean win. I mean, this might just be one of the cleanest counters to Executor, period. I think I could have got even more banners if I would have just underdogged my stuff. This, we already know Negotiator is a counter to Executor, 100%. That's nothing new. We've seen it before. But the Marauder, I think, really makes this a lot better. So normally, if you want to go up against Executor Negotiator, you got to do Plo. You have to have a pretty decent Plo, too, so he can get out there fast enough. An Anakin, and you would do Clone Sergeant. And you would force the taunt over on Clone Sergeant before the Mass Swarm from Executor. It would get the job done. It would just be a little bit messy. But here, why not just use the Marauder in place of Clone Sergeant? Marauder is an extremely beefy ship, and it's got like a savior mechanic. So even if you do kill it off, it's just gonna come back up and running. And my gosh, did that work out so beautifully here. Executor the Mass Swarm, one from Marauder, barely a tickle. We have so many ways of recovering health and protection on the team because of the Marauder. This was an absolutely gorgeous way of beating Executor. And it kind of makes me consider, man, maybe I should just do this on Executor moving forward and just keep Chimera for Leviathan. Point being is, I've used the Negotiator for so many things with the Marauder, Profundity. I've been mostly using against Leviathan, but just putting it out there, this is another solid way of using your Marauder, and hopefully you have this guy at least at low stars, because even at low stars, the Marauder is providing so much functionality to the team. It might just be one of the most important things this year that's not getting enough praise, and I'm just putting it out there again. Get your Marauder. It might be even more important next year. Coming in with a near max banner win of 73. Holy cow. Next up, we have the Chimera versus the Negotiator. Speaking of Marauder Negotiator, that's the lineup we had here. Marauder Negotiator is also kind of a scary team on defense, and I almost dropped the ball here. Definitely a few misplays that I could have definitely made this a little bit smoother on myself, but I just felt more comfortable doing Chimera versus Negotiator. I just despise mirror matches. I avoid them if at all possible. Very few mirror matches do I enjoy. And maybe the mirror match is finer, but I just have not had a lot of experience with Negotiator Marauder mirror matches. I don't know how they go. This wasn't the time to figure it out when the Grand Arena's on the line. So we get out there, we do our usual shenanigans. We didn't bring out TIE Defender first. We decided to bring out the TIE Interceptor to make sure we can get out Anakin. However, Marauder, I think, is now the biggest threat on the team. Anakin, of course, is still a threat. Don't get it twisted. But with Marauder there, it just drives this team crazy to a new level. It's so durable, as I said. It's got that baked-in savior mechanic. I gave it a bonus turn, and that's when things really got off the rails. Once I tried to kill off Marauder, it kind of caused a couple of problems for us, and we were barely able to eke out of this one. Unlike the other ship battle, this was not as pretty. But a win is a win. I just gotta keep one shot in here. And lastly, we have Malevolence versus Malevolence. I don't know, you just said you don't like mirror matches. This is one of those fleet mirror matches where I'm kind of okay. I don't like it, but I accept it. Malevolence versus Malevolence doesn't seem as bad, but again, holy cow, this was a little too close for comfort. It just comes down to who can make sure they're taking advantage of the buzz droids, and more often than not, the opposing AI and defense, they don't really play things correctly, so it gives me wiggle room to win. I don't know, I still hate these, but I usually win these Malevolence mirror matches. But the good thing is, again, I came up, I got the win, but the banners weren't pretty. Ooh, it got a little too close here, guys. So, sit rep, Leia caused problems, and freaking Luke. Rebels, man, they're just always on my nerves. Our final score was 1986. But Mike, was that going to be enough? We got the points up first before Mike did, so we were sitting at the edge of our seats waiting for the final score. Our opponent, we know they're going primarily offense heavy. Was the strategy going to pan out for them? And the final score, ladies and gentlemen, was Otto T101 with 1986 versus Mike's 1923. This was a fun one, giving the Kyber Club yet another amazing win inside a 3v3 Grand Arena. So what happened over on Mike's side? Things are going very well for my opponent. They took out my Leia, they one-shotted it with the Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, and then they focused on the north and oddly left the south for later. And they one-shotted the top. They one-shotted my ships. But then, that's when we started pulling ahead, because when they had to go through the rest of my south wall, the front, that's when the banners started to bleed. Losing to Jedi Master Kenobi, it looks like they were trying to weed out the insta-kill to make a Reva two-shot possible because of the anti-revive crown on Cat. A little bit dicier to get your Inquisitors in there. Unfortunately, they did not have the same luck I had with Dr. Aphra versus Jabba. Barely even putting a dent, losing in about a minute. They used Jedi Master Luke versus my Lord Vader again, something I wouldn't do, but they did. They actually got their Star Killer to beat my Rey for max banners. So they're part of that 20% that eked it out. They took a gamble. This could have definitely went south. But Jabba gave such a hard time, throwing in things like Jedi Master Kenobi against the Jabba, trying to clean through the Jabba with Mon Mothma. Eventually, they had to get expensive. They had to pull out Malicos to take out Jabba. So that south wall, kind of like what I hoped for, got very expensive very quickly. And then moving on to the back, they lost to my Dash Rendar, and they lost quite a few times versus my Iden. So that's the thing about heavy offense, light defense, not my preferred strategy. If you're going heavy offense, you need to commit. You need to promise yourself that you're going to one-shot everything as best as possible, because the second you start dropping teams and losing, you might as well just put more on defense, because now you made the life of your opponent a lot easier because your defense was a bit easy to get through. So really fun stuff here. So again, one more time, I know I made this very evident. The second Marauder came out, and I'm hoping I did my job as the video gaming director here in the Kyber Empire by giving you the heads up. This is the ship you don't want to ignore. If you have Negotiator, you have some bad batch, even if they're low gear, you definitely want to take advantage of this ship. This is a very powerful ship. I love the TIE Defender, but I'm actually prepared to say this might be the most important ship of 2023. And I think there's gonna be something coming next year potentially that makes more sense. This is very random, dropped out of nowhere, but I think it's setting the foundation for what's to come later. But again, please use this ship, I beg of you. That's gonna wrap it up for today, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully again you enjoy these Grand Arena intense highlights, because let me tell you, I sure do as well. Leave that like, comment down below, subscribe so you're not missing a thing, and always remember how it's great to be in the Empire today. It's great to be in the Empire today. The sun never sets.